The Senate hearing room was tense, eerily quiet except for the hum of cameras and the shuffle of papers. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana leaned back in his chair, his pen tapping against the table like a metronome of mischief. Across from him sat Representative Ilhan Omar, invited to testify on government transparency and foreign policy oversight. The air between them seemed to crackle with electricity. Kennedy was known for his southern charm and razor wit, but Omar was no stranger to public battles. She'd sparred with governors, activists, and talk show hosts before, but this was different. The cameras were live, social media was watching, and every glance, every word would be dissected. Ms. Omar, Kennedy began, his drawl slow and deliberate, "Thank you for joinin' us today. I gotta say, you've been quite vocal lately about the ethics of our foreign dealings. Mighty bold, considerin' some of the questions surroundin' your own record." Omar's chin lifted slightly. "If you're implying something, Senator, I'd prefer you say it outright. The American people deserve clarity, not insinuation." Kennedy's smile widened. "Oh, I intend to, Congresswoman. You see, I've been going over your campaign records, your foreign travel reports, your, how do I put this politely, relationships with certain organizations overseas." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Reporters leaned forward. Omar didn't flinch. "You mean the organizations that expose human rights abuses?" She countered. "The ones that work to end child hunger and military violence." "Yes, Senator, I've worked with them proudly. And if that offends your sense of patriotism, maybe your patriotism needs re-examining." A few aides exchanged looks. Kennedy's pen stopped tapping. "Well now, Ms. Omar, that's a mighty fancy way to dodge accountability," Kennedy said smoothly. "I reckon what I'm askin' is simple. Are you willin' to admit that your advocacy has sometimes aligned with nations that aren't exactly our allies?" Omar leaned forward, voice steady as steel. "And are you willing to admit, Senator, that some of your donors profit from weapons sold to those same nations?" The crowd erupted. The gavel pounded. The chair of the committee shouted for order. Kennedy's smile vanished, replaced by a sharp flicker of irritation. He hadn't expected her to swing back so fast. "Now hold on just a minute," he snapped. "That's a baseless accusation." "It's not baseless," she shot back. "Your 2024 campaign filings show over $800,000 from defense contractors who have active arms deals in the Middle East. And you sit here lecturing me about ethics." The reporters, pens flew across notepads. Camera flashes filled the room. Kennedy's jaw tightened. "I'll tell you what's unethical," Kennedy said, voice rising. "It's underminin' this country while pretendin' to save it. It's talkin' about equality while playin' footsie with regimes that hate America." Omar's eyes glinted. "And I'll tell you what's cowardly, Senator, it's hiding behind flags and slogans because you're afraid of truth. You talk about loving America, but you sell her out every time you vote to enrich corporations over people." For a moment, the room fell silent again. Kennedy adjusted his glasses, scanning his notes for ammunition. Then his tone shifted, cold and calculated. "You know, Ms. Omar, I've done some diggin'. Seems like a former aide of yours was tied to a foreign nonprofit that, let's say, doesn't exactly play by the rules. You wanna explain that?" Omar didn't blink. "I already did. 3 years ago. The ethics committee cleared me completely. But it's telling that you're still bringing it up, Senator. Because you don't have real evidence, just old headlines and fearmongering." Kennedy's hand froze over his papers. The room was watching him now, not her. His reputation for charming control was slipping. And Omar saw it. She pressed the advantage. "Let's talk about exposure, Senator," she said. "You like investigations. Fine. Let's investigate your Kennedy Civic Alliance. The one that funneled money into your campaign through shell foundations. I have the financial trail right here." She held up a folder. Kennedy's face went pale. Now that's just plain nonsense," he stammered. "Those donations were, legal contributions." "Legal, maybe," she said, "but moral? That's another question." The chair tried to intervene again, but the momentum was gone. Kennedy's composure was cracking, and everyone knew it. Omar wasn't just defending herself, she was dismantling him piece by piece. "You call yourself a defender of the Constitution," she continued, "but you use your position to protect lobbyists, not citizens. You call me un-American for criticizing hypocrisy, but isn't it more un-American to lie to the people who elected you?" Kennedy inhaled sharply, his hand trembling slightly as he reached for his water glass. "You sure got a funny way of talking about patriotism, Congresswoman." "Patriotism," she replied, "means holding power accountable, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable." The audience in the gallery began murmuring. Journalists exchanged glances, sensing the story of the week unfolding before their eyes. Kennedy leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "You think you can come in here, insult me, insult my donors, and walk out with your reputation intact? That ain't how this works, ma'am." Omar met his gaze unflinchingly. "No, Senator. I think the truth works exactly that way." He opened his mouth to retort, but before he could, a young intern rushed forward with a note. Kennedy scanned it, and the blood drained from his face. "Is there a problem, Senator?" Omar asked, tone icy but polite. Kennedy didn't answer. The note was from his own communications director. It read, "CNN has the documents she mentioned. They're going live in 5 minutes." Across the chamber, Omar knew exactly what had just happened. Her sources had moved faster than he'd expected. She'd tipped them off hours earlier, anticipating his line of attack. Now, every accusation he'd tried to throw at her was about to backfire, publicly. Kennedy fumbled with his microphone. "This hearing, this is an ambush," he barked. "This ain't conduct becomin' of a member of Congress." "Ambush," she repeated. "Senator, transparency isn't an ambush. It's accountability." Within minutes, phones across the room buzzed with alerts. "Breaking. Documents show Kennedy's PAC linked to foreign lobbyists." The irony was impossible to miss. Kennedy's staffers scrambled to do damage control, whispering frantically into phones. Omar sat quietly, hands folded, as if the chaos around her was just background noise. After several tense minutes, the chair finally adjourned the hearing, citing procedural disruptions. Kennedy gathered his papers in silence. His charm had evaporated, replaced by something raw, humiliation. As the senators filed out, a reporter called out, "Senator Kennedy. Any comment on the leaked documents?" Kennedy waved him off, muttering something unintelligible. Omar, however, paused at the microphones. "Let me just say this," she began, her voice calm but firm. "When leaders use their offices to attack rather than serve, to silence rather than listen, they betray the very principles they claim to defend. The American people deserve better." The clip went viral before she even reached her car. Within hours, it was trending worldwide. #Omar exposes Kennedy-dominated X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and every political forum online. Late night, hosts played the footage, analyzing every pause, every glance, every cutting remark. Meanwhile, Kennedy's office released a statement calling the leak politically motivated, but the damage was done. The documents confirmed what Omar had implied: his PAC had accepted money from intermediaries connected to foreign oil interests. Nothing illegal, perhaps, but deeply hypocritical given his constant moral lectures. By nightfall, even some of Kennedy's allies distanced themselves. One senator reportedly told Politico off record, he walked right into that trap. She owned him start to finish. Omar, on the other hand, remained composed. When asked by reporters whether she'd planned the exchange, she smiled faintly. "I didn't plan to humiliate anyone," she said. "I planned to tell the truth." But privately, her chief of staff knew better. The entire morning had been orchestrated. The timing of her statements, the document release, the calm demeanor, it was a masterclass in strategic politics. Kennedy had tried to bait her, and she'd turned his own narrative against him. The following day, editorial headlines read, "Kennedy's oversight hearing turns into his own interrogation. Ilhan Omar just redefined political strategy. Senator Kennedy's charm can't save him this time." In Louisiana, Kennedy's approval ratings took a sharp dip. Local stations replayed his flustered expression on a loop. Donors grew nervous. Meanwhile, Omar's popularity among progressives soared. Even critics who'd once dismissed her as too radical admitted she'd handled herself with poise and power. But beneath the triumph, Omar knew the fight wasn't over. She'd exposed hypocrisy, yes, but that would only make the establishment hit back harder. Washington never forgot embarrassment. That night, as she sat in her office overlooking the Capitol, her aide entered quietly. "They're calling it the Omar Doctrine," he said with a grin. "Fight lies with proof, not politics." Omar looked out the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. No, she said softly. Just truth. That's all it ever needed to be. Across town, Senator Kennedy sat alone in his study, the TV flickering with pundits dissecting his downfall. His phone buzzed with texts from donors and colleagues, none of which he answered. For the first time in his career, his words had failed him. He poured a drink, leaned back, and muttered to himself, "Well, John boy, you sure got humbled today." The next morning, a headline sealed his fate. Senator Kennedy under review for undisclosed foreign donations. And beneath it, a photo of Omar, walking calmly down the Capitol steps, folder in hand, expression serene, captioned simply, "The woman who exposed him."